The Department of Government Efficiency is running into some legal problems because, well, it's trying to investigate the U.S. Treasury. And look, this is raising questions over the legalities of the whole DOGE department. Now, look, as this investigation of the Treasury takes place also, Elon Musk is saying, well, there's about $100 billion in Social Security fraud every year. That's right, about $100 billion every year just on that. And look, this is tying into another problem being exposed by the Trump administration, which is how illegal immigrants use loopholes to access Social Security benefits. And meanwhile, look, tariffs are incoming from the Trump administration, new ones, and this time they're reciprocal. All the countries tariffing us, we're going to do it right back to them. I'll be talking about these stories and more today, so let's jump into it. First off, folks, the Department of Government Efficiency, that's Elon Musk, that this whole thing, going and investigating USAID and everything else, it is now facing legal challenges because it's attempting to investigate the U.S. Treasury. And the case is raising questions over the legalities of the department, which has been uncovering alleged overspending and other issues. But the program actually is not new. Guess what? DOGE, this whole thing, it goes back to the Obama administration, which established not only its legality and even passed it and established everything else, but also its deep reach into the networks of government agencies. Its ability to go into all these areas was established under Obama. Now, first off, let's go over the recent legal challenges. Look, last week, a federal judge blocked the DOGE department from accessing documents of the U.S. Treasury because they allege they contain personal data. That's Social Security numbers, that's bank account numbers, it's other personal information. And The Guardian said this. It said U.S. District Judge Paul A. Engelmayer issued the preliminary injunction after 19 Democratic attorneys sued Donald Trump. The case, it says, filed in federal court in New York City, alleges the Trump administration allowed Musk's team access to the Treasury Department's central payment system in violation of federal law. The payment system handles tax refunds, Social Security benefits, veterans benefits, and much more, sending out trillions of dollars every year while containing an expansive network of Americans' personal and financial data. Engelmayer, the judge, who was appointed by Barack Obama, also said that anyone prohibited from having access to the sensitive information since January 20th must immediately destroy all copies of material downloaded from Treasury Department systems. And it notes he set a hearing for this for February 14th. Now, briefly, there's a new update on this. Donald Trump has fired back with his own challenge directly. This is not coming from like the DOGE department, this is coming from the office of the president himself, alleging that this judge and these, again, state attorneys, that they don't have the legal right to basically go against an order from the president, that they're outside the jurisdiction. Regardless, there's going to have to be some kind of court hearing on this. And let me explain a bit more. Basically, this was filed, right, this injunction against DOGE. It was filed from the office of New York Attorney General Letitia James, the one who's been going after Trump as well. And the hearing on it will also be this Friday. So we'll see how the investigations can move forward from there. But it was later raised that this wasn't just a brief stall on the investigations. As it noted, this also requires the destruction of evidence, the destruction of any information the DOGE investigators have been uncovering. And here's Senator Tom Cotton, a Republican from Arkansas, talking about this on his X account. He said this, outrageous. Obama judge Paul Engelmayer didn't just bar Elon Musk and DOGE from Treasury systems, he barred the Secretary of the Treasury himself. And he notes without citing a single law or even allowing Trump admin to appear in court. This outlaw should be reversed immediately, and Engelmayer should be forbidden by higher courts from ever hearing another case against the Trump admin. Now, that comment was then quickly challenged by the Democrat side. Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut said this, And let me read it to you. He said, this just isn't true, Tom, referring to, again, the Republican. He said, one, it's a temporary order, and Trump's lawyers are asked to present their case in court next Friday, this coming Friday. He notes as well, Engelmeyer does reference several laws and constitutional provisions, most notably the APA, that have possibly been violated. But the finding is simply that without the immediate relief, there would be irreparable harm. Trump still has his day in court. Now, look, to be clear on this, basically, the part that Senator Murphy says is untrue because he says that's false, right? He's saying that the judge doesn't cite any law. He argues the judge does cite some laws. But the Republican side is saying, yeah, he cites a law, but there's no evidence of any legal violation. You can cite a law, but you need to show a violation. And the point about delaying the investigation and ordering Musk and DOGE to destroy evidence, well, that's also true. They're only challenging this one idea that he did not cite any laws while basically blocking DOGE on a presidential order. Now, New York Attorney General Matt Platkin said this as well. He said, to be clear, the judge ordered Elon and Doge Bros to delete any data they allegedly illegally acquired since Trump took office. And he said, we are going to make sure they comply. Billionaires don't get to write their own rules. Again, this is from the Democrat side. And he adds, thanks to our lawsuit, the world's richest man has been stopped from stealing your data. And that's the argument from the Democrat side, of course. Now, Elon Musk, he also shot back on all this, came out against this, and he made a comment on the judge himself. Elon Musk wrote on X, quote, this is an activist posing as a judge. And he's essentially alleging that, why are you trying to block my investigations into fraud and overspending when, again, he's actually alleging they've already uncovered massive fraud. Why would you want to block that? That's the question he's raising. Now, look, what's really going on? Basically this. Democrats are questioning whether DOGE is operating within the law, just in general, right? That's the big question they have. And also whether the department, the DOGE department, has the legal right to beginning access to sensitive information like this, personal data, social security numbers, things that are generally very sensitive. Can they legally do this? That's the big question. And on the Republican side, basically, they're arguing the judge who blocked this case does not have the jurisdiction to be taking an action like this. Donald Trump's new, motion against that judge specifically lines this out, basically saying they're outside their jurisdiction trying to block something that has been basically approved by the president himself under executive action and actually based in some legal precedent, which we'll get into. And they also allege the actions of the DOGE department are in fact within legal boundaries that have already been established for the department. And they also point to that information that DOGE investigators are already uncovering, including massive abuse of Social Security by illegal immigrants, as well as people who are dead or claimed to be over 140 years old, still getting Social Security benefits. We apparently have a very large number of 140-plus-year-olds in the United States getting Social Security. So which side do you want to believe, right? What are the legal boundaries of the DOGE department? Is this just a crazy billionaire doing anything he wants and unraveling our entire government? Or is there a legal foundation to all of this? Well, look, that's where history comes into play. And this goes back to the Obama administration. Let me show you the legal basis of DOGE. Now, look, this ties into what DOGE technically is. First, we have to have a look at the official White House executive order and implementation of the Department of Government Efficiency. This is January 20th, one of Donald Trump's day one policies of his first day in office. Again, second term. And he said this, by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, purpose. This executive order establishes the Department of Government Efficiency to implement the president's DOGE agenda by modernizing federal technology and software to maximize governmental efficiency and productivity. Now, briefly on this, a lot of people have taken this first part and said, well, if that's the case, then Trump just created a government office out of nowhere by executive order. That's actually not true. he actually repurposed an existing one, and that's further in the document. Section 3, Donald Trump wrote this in the executive order. He said, DOGE structure, A, reorganization and renaming of the United States Digital Service. That is what it is actually based on. And he said the United States Digital Service is hereby publicly renamed as the United States DOGE Service, the USDS, and shall be established in the executive office of the President. Meaning, look, basically from there, the order then goes on to establish how the agency is going to function, the technical definitions of these operations, and then establishes the, frankly, very broad powers of the agency. It says this, in fact, this executive order displaces all prior executive orders and regulations insofar as they are subject to direct presidential amendment that might serve as a barrier to providing USDS access, that's the DOGE department, to agency records and systems as described above. Look, so basically, what Trump did, Trump took an existing agency, established its actions of cutting government waste under the definition of improving the quality and efficiency of government-wide software, network infrastructure, and information technology systems. And then he gave that new agency, well, renamed agency, full access, even to the extent that if an existing order or regulation, meaning any law, would block it, the DOGE agency has the power written in this law to displace any existing regulation or even an order and then remove any barriers to gain access to agency records and systems. And its ability to gain access to those systems is basically defined in the Obama-era law, which defines it as an IT operation, internet technology. So look, is that legal? Well, let's dig into it, folks. And for that, we first need to go back and look at the original agency, the OG one under Barack Obama that DOGE is built on top of. Now, the one that Trump basically just renamed, that agency is this. It's the United States Digital Service, USDS. Same acronym technically as DOGE, they just changed digital to DOGE. And this established, it was under Barack Obama in 2014, and it was part of a rollout, right? The Obama administration, they released a promo video for it, and they showed the then administrator of the agency, the equivalent of Elon Musk at the time, at least in terms of being the head of this agency. That was Mikey Dickerson. And he discussed his work on making government services more accessible, from medical services to the IRS and filing your taxes. They were making the government more efficient. Have a look at what he said back in August of 2014.
A fairly concentrated group of innovators, as long as they had a clear direction from the White House, could actually transform something pretty quickly.
Digital technology has clearly revolutionized so many aspects of our lives. It's important that the full power of that digital revolution hit government, and it hasn't yet. And the opportunity for someone like Mikey and for all the rest of us who have signed up to serve, the opportunity is to have not just impact at scale, but impact with meaning.
Interacting with the government shouldn't be a thing that you automatically dread. Things like filing your taxes. This is like on the list of things that people put in, that usually mention in the same sentence as like going to the dentist and stuff like that, right? And it's probably never going to be exactly fun, but a lot of look at the experience people had trying to sign up for healthcare.gov at first. Things like that should be a process that you go through and immediately forget about because it wasn't any big deal. And all of your other interactions with the government could be that smooth. Like, we have a lot of bad UI experiences that could go away.
Yes, I think many people in the current administration would also agree. There are many practices with the user experiences of the government agencies that could go away, right? And that's where some of these powers are now being applied, in fact, using that same agency. Now, the Obama-era agency, it was first rolled out mainly to help people sign up for Obamacare, right? The Affordable Care Act. Because some of you might remember when that thing first launched, they had all kinds of problems with the website. A lot of people were not able to sign up for Obamacare when they were being forced to under the new laws they put in place. You had to sign up for it. You didn't really have a choice. But what Trump did was basically capitalize on some of the loopholes within the technical language of that whole department. And, especially when it came to the legal access the agency was actually given. Now, technically, the Obama agency, the USDS, it was focused on IT, right? Internet technology and user experience. Now, the interesting thing is that IT is very broad. That basically gives you access to all data. But Trump used a U.S. code on government IT and cybersecurity oversight and then expanded what IT access actually means. Basically, look, because the Obama agency was focused on IT oversight, right, internet technology oversight, this gave the newly named DOGE agency full access to all government data systems because that reach was established under Barack Obama. Then look, this is what else Trump did. Let's go back to his day one executive order. Trump wrote this. He said there shall be a USDS administrator established in the executive office of the president who shall report to the White House chief of staff. And he says there is further established within USDS, in accordance with Section 3161 of Title V United States Code, a temporary organization known as the U.S. DOGE Service Temporary Organization. And it says the U.S. DOGE Service Temporary Organization shall be headed by the USDS Administrator and shall be dedicated to advancing the President's 18-month DOGE agenda. Now look, basically what that means, that gave Trump the ability to legally establish DOGE as a kind of temporary organization, not just the one under the executive office, right? That's like Elon Musk and so on, but this temporary agency that has powers they would not normally have. And it then allows that organization to appoint or hire people within it for up to 3 years, not needing any kind of approval or anything else like that. They are special employees. And because of the way the Obama agency was set up, the one that's built upon, right? This has the effect of basically, what it actually did is it embedded DOGE, right? This DOGE special department, it embedded it in just about every federal agency, but it makes it so the reporting of the DOGE temporary organization, instead of going to the agency themselves, it goes back to DOGE. And so this kind of created like insiders within all the government agencies who have full access to all the systems, but they don't have to report to the agencies. They report back to the DOGE department under this, again, kind of web of different laws. And then added to that is the scope of its powers, its ability to even override executive orders and existing regulations that would otherwise block it, right? And the other policies establishing it. Basically, nobody can legally block DOGE without risking a violation of presidential authority. And go back to the current time, right now as we speak, when you have, again, different states and you have this New York judge blocking DOGE, what is Trump's argument? He's basically saying that their actions to do that are a violation of presidential authority. And based upon the law and based upon the way he did this, he actually has a very strong legal argument for that. So basically what's happening now, Congress cannot technically get rid of DOGE because DOGE is based on an established agency, right? The USDS under Barack Obama. The scope of its operations, right? Whether it's accessing private data or information that contains social security numbers, that was actually already established under Obama. Obama gave it those powers. And again, Trump just basically expanded that because of the way that IT, internet technology, has been expanded under the cybersecurity laws. Because IT, under various government laws, has basically come to encompass anything that's digital. This digital service, renamed as DOGE, can access literally all of that, legally, again. And it also has very deep resilience to legal challenges because it pulls from laws that were already in the books and is established within presidential authority because of the way Trump did it. This is an extremely resilient operation they've established, and one that I think a lot of people who don't like it are struggling to deal with because of the way it was done. Whoever came up with the way they put this together, very likely took into account any possible challenge it would face. And look, right now, basically what Elon Musk has done in his position, leading the DOGE investigations, is he created an AI tool that can evaluate the data on all these IT networks they're getting access to, which is basically everything. And then look at discrepancies of fraud or any kinds of problems using, again, AI. And this is also leading to him flagging anything that he finds concerning for further legal evaluation or for the president's evaluation, because that's the reporting mechanism back to the office of the president. And again, that could be a review of whether the spending is necessary. It could be a flagging for legal review of crimes that he alleges may have been committed. Or it could be a list of any long line of issues of things that just plain don't line up. And this is working as a kind of legal audit, essentially, of entire government agencies at a very granular level, because the level at which they're accessing it represents a full analysis of IT data, then combined with a public reporting mechanism where he's using X, basically, to talk to the public, report this, show it to people. It's causing a lot of anger, a lot of noise, and a lot of discussions. And Americans right now, at least among Republicans, are kind of outraged at what's being uncovered. That is essentially what's happening with this agency. Now look, back to the current legal actions, this lawsuit blocking this until Friday at least. And I don't know if the DOGE agency is continuing its operations regardless of this, because Trump's basically saying the legal injunction is itself illegal. Well, right now, here's what's happening. It's stalling it to an extent. We're likely going to start seeing debates over the scope of DOGE's powers. There probably will be a legal review of that. But one of the underlying debates with that, right, the whole block, is on these Social Security numbers, right? This judge is arguing that DOGE should not be able to access personal information like this, especially when it comes to regular American citizens. But Elon Musk, Donald Trump, and others, they're countering that, and they're suggesting what they've uncovered is large-scale abuse and fraud of the system. And they're suggesting, Trump actually commented on this to the media, basically saying, blocking the government, blocking the president himself from investigating fraud, how can that even possibly take place? If you have a random judge who can block a fraud investigation, Donald Trump's exact words were, how can we even have a country, basically. Now, what Musk is alleging right now is that they've already uncovered about $100 billion in Medicare and Medicaid waste. And he's also alleging people have been gaming the Social Security system through various loopholes to effectively rob American citizens of social benefits, right? People are saying, hey, we're paying into Social Security. When I retire, there's going to be nothing left because the money is being siphoned off all over the place. And, a lot of people blame American citizens. The information coming out right now is that it's not American citizens, it's fraud. Now, part of this is because of an alleged loophole, according to Elon Musk at least, that lets people use the same Social Security number over and over and over again. Elon Musk wrote this on X. He said, just learned that the Social Security database is not deduplicated, meaning you can have the same Social Security number many times over, which further enables massive fraud. Your tax dollars are being stolen. And this is important too, because when illegal immigrants come to the U.S. and people say, hey, they pay taxes. Well, how do they pay taxes? They pay taxes by stealing Social Security numbers. And they oftentimes need that to work in union jobs and things like that. The issue then is that there are illegal rings, right, crime rings that sell them stolen identities. And it turns out these stolen identities can just recycle the same Social Security numbers, at least according to this. Now, Elon Musk goes further into the findings and some of the current actions to fix this problem. And here's what he says. He says, quote, to be clear, what the DOGE team and Treasury, right, again, the U.S. Treasury Department, have jointly agreed makes sense is the following. One, require that all outgoing government payments have a payment categorization code which is necessary in order to pass financial audits. This is frequently left blank, making audits almost impossible. He says, two, all payments must also include a rationale for the payment in the comment field, which is currently left blank. Importantly, we are not yet applying any judgment to this rationale, but simply requiring that some attempts be made to explain the payment more than nothing. He's alleging basically that there's spending and there's nothing saying what the spending is for. And also he's suggesting as a change, the do not pay list of entities known to be fraudulent or people who are dead or are probable fronts for terrorist organizations or do not match congressional appropriations must actually be implemented and not ignored. Meaning there needs to be a system in place to prevent fraud and making sure our money is not going to terrorists or illegal aliens and so on. And he says also, it can currently take up to a year to get on this list, which is far too long. This list should be updated at least weekly, if not daily, suggesting that if there are problems found, they should be updated daily, and people defrauding the system should be immediately kicked off. He says the above super obvious and necessary changes are being implemented by existing long-term career government employees, not anyone from DOGE. It is ridiculous that these changes did not exist already, suggesting he's already working through the DOGE department in collaboration with the U.S. Treasury Department to implement these legal changes to prevent fraud happening. And he adds that yesterday I was told that there are currently over $100 billion a year of entitlements payments to individuals with no social security number or even a temporary ID number. He said, if accurate, this is extremely suspicious. When I asked if anyone at Treasury had a rough guess for what percentage of that number is unequivocal and obvious fraud, the consensus in the room was about half. So $50 billion a year or $1 billion a week. This is utterly insane and must be addressed immediately. Now, on this point, right, this is tying into another problem that's now being exposed as well and becoming part of the national debate. According to Donald Trump, according to, mostly Republicans, apparently what's been happening is illegal immigrants have been able to get social security numbers either through identity theft or through other loopholes. And then what happens is they start getting various government benefits through social security. Now, Donald Trump actually addressed this in a press conference when he just recently met with the Japanese Prime Minister last week. Watch this.
Social Security will not be touched. It'll only be strengthened. We have illegal immigrants on Social Security, and we're going to find out who they are and take them out. We have illegal immigrants in other Medicare. We've found a lot of bad people, a lot of people that shouldn't be on, that were put on through California. A lot of them come out of California. We're not going to stand for that. So we're going to strengthen our Social Security, et cetera. We're not going to touch it other than to make it stronger. But we have people that shouldn't be on, and those people we have to weed out. Most of them, or many of them so far, have been illegal immigrants. They shouldn't even be in the country.
This has actually been part of a long-term discussion. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he actually raised his concerns over this exact loophole a few months back. This is when he was still a senator in Florida. But videos of his speech are now making rounds again because what he raised at the time is what DOGE seems to be right now uncovering. And Marco Rubio detailed how many of the illegal immigrants who have been allowed to come into our country by the millions upon millions over the last few years, many of them were able to get benefits, including Medicare, Medicaid, other programs, while American citizens were paying into the system and getting much fewer benefits than even non-U.S. citizens. Watch.
One of the things I see a lot in South Florida are people that have been in this country that maybe came from Cuba 45 years ago. They've worked here their entire lives. They retire. They get $800, $900, $1,000 a month from Social Security. And then they run into somebody who just got here from Cuba 3 months ago, is 29 years old, doesn't work, and is given $1,500 a month in benefits by our government because they're refugees. That refugee, a year later, is traveling back to Cuba 15 times. So you're a refugee fleeing oppression from a place that you now go back and visit 15 times the following year. And in the meantime, we're giving you Medicaid, food stamps, health care for your children, cash payments from the refugee fund. So imagine if you've been working here for 40 years and your Social Security check is smaller than the benefits going to a 28-year-old. able-bodied person who just got here. That's real. That happens. That's happening every day. That makes no sense.
We'll see what else is uncovered. Look, right now, again, a judge is trying to block DOGE from being able to access those Social Security numbers and has ordered the DOGE agency to destroy any records it has currently found. They have to get rid of all the information, all the evidence, all the findings. But there are also, right, these allegations of fraud and abuse that are already being uncovered, along with concerns that illegal immigrants may have even been using stolen or duplicate Social Security numbers, not even to just defraud the American taxpayer, but to also vote in our elections. That's one of the allegations as well. And as Trump said during his recent press conference, he does seem interested in putting an end to the abuses of the Social Security system. Friday is the court case on this. Donald Trump is again pushing back on it directly from the office of the president. I'll keep you updated on where this goes. Now look, on the note of the Treasury though, Trump last night posted on Truth Social saying he has directed the U.S. Treasury to stop producing new pennies. One of the interesting big moves. Donald Trump on Truth Social said this: "For far too long, the United States has minted pennies which literally cost us more than 2 cents. We're paying 2 cents to print 1 cent. He says, "This is so wasteful. I have instructed my Secretary of the U.S. Treasury to stop producing new pennies. Let's rip the waste out of our great nation's budget, even if it's a penny at a time." So no more pennies, folks. Now, this topic of pennies was something Trump also brought up by DOGE on X last month. And this is DOGE on X. It said this: "The penny costs over 3 cents to make and costs U.S. taxpayers over $179 million in fiscal year of 2023. It says the mint produced over 4.5 billion pennies in fiscal year 2023, around 40% of the 11.4 billion coins for circulation produced. Close to half of the coins, or 3 cents, right? 3 cents for a penny." He said, "For your thoughts." Now, according to Politico, it says this: "The U.S. Mint reported losing $85.3 million in the 2024 fiscal year that ended in September on the nearly 3.2 billion pennies it produced. Every penny cost nearly 0.037 cents, up from 0.031 the year before." So it costs almost 4 cents to make 1 cent. That's a pretty big discrepancy, right? Look, it sounds like some cost savings to me. This does seem to be part of Trump's agenda right now, saving every penny, as he's saying. But let me know in the comments, I mean, what do you think about that? Are you going to start hoarding pennies? Maybe I will. Do you think we should stop, minting them? Do you think we should keep producing them? What do you do at the store if you want to pay exact change and it's like $4.31? What are you going to do about that, right? You have to pay with credit. We'll figure it out. Now, look, folks, in other news, remote work is coming to an end for government employees. And until now, many of them were allowed to work from home. This has been something in place mostly since COVID, still in place for a lot of people. And a lot of people do not want to go back to work in person. But look, they may soon have to show up for work in person at the office Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, unless they have some extraordinary circumstance. And look, many of them did not want to stop working from home. I understand the sentiment. I like working from home when I can, right? And so the Trump administration, what they've done is they extended an offer. They can take the buyout, right? All government employees, every single one of them, were offered payment all through September. Now through September, full pay. And all they have to do to get that money is resign from their jobs. Now, look, a lot of people have taken it. Last I checked, over 65,000 government employees took that offer, quit their jobs, resigned. We're still paying them, but there's 65 open seats that may be open forever or may be filled. We'll have to see. A judge right now, though, is hearing a case today on whether or not to block the buyout offer. They're trying to say that buyout is illegal. You shouldn't be able to do that because it's gutting the federal government, they say. And who's the president to offer that money? We'll see if it stands up or not, right? We'll have to see whether, again, after today's hearing, I'll keep you updated on it. But on a related note as well, Trump set a February 6th deadline for federal workers to return to work or be fired. Watch this.
We don't want them to work from home because, as everyone knows, most of the time they're not working, they're not very productive, and it's unfair to the millions of people in the United States who are in fact working hard from job sites and not from their home. As federal employees, they must meet a high standard. They're representing our government, they're representing our country. If they don't agree by February 6th to show up back to work in their office, they will be terminated, and we will.
Now, the deadline for that has technically already come and gone. Technically, anybody who has not shown up for work since then, they should be fired based upon Trump's statements. We may get news on how many actually remain in the federal workforce. We'll probably get also other updates. There are allegations that some of the government workers are like ghost workers. They're not actual people. It's just people collecting money basically on a ghost position. And there's also the problem of a lot of government workers. Look, they work from home, but they're working a different job at home, and they're doing just minimal work for their federal job. A lot of federal government jobs, they don't actually give you a lot of work. And so when people work from home, they can do other things and not really do much work. And there are some allegations this affects basically the entire functioning of our government if you're letting them stay at home, work second jobs while pretending to do their federal jobs. We'll see if that's actually true or not. We'll probably get more updates on this. And it's going to be interesting as this court case moves forward. And meanwhile, also, Donald Trump's tariffs are ramping up, and he's now going to unveil reciprocal tariffs on other countries. All of them, apparently. I'll be talking more about this after we come back from a quick break.
Experts agree. One of the best ways to protect against financial uncertainty is to diversify your portfolio. Learn how physical gold and silver can secure your retirement funds from today's economic challenges. With a gold IRA from American Hartford Gold, you can safeguard your wealth with no penalties or taxes when you transfer your current qualifying retirement accounts. Call now and our precious metals specialists will send you a free information kit, no cost or obligation. American Hartford Gold, a trusted industry leader with an A+ from the Better Business Bureau, has a 5-star rating from thousands of happy clients. Whether you are getting physical precious metals in a gold IRA or delivered to your doorstep, we offer only the highest quality gold and silver. For your peace of mind, we also offer a no-fee buyback commitment, a low-price guarantee, along with free shipping and free insurance. So don't wait. Call the number on your screen today and secure your financial future.
Welcome back. We're likely to see new tariffs get announced this week. Now look, we just saw Trump announce his tariffs on Canada and Mexico before both of them folded to putting deals on, basically put the deals on pause for 30 days. And we also saw some actions against the Chinese Communist Party. But now, well, we're very likely going to see a whole lot of other countries face tariffs as well, maybe all of them. The Epoch Times said this: President Donald Trump laid out plans February 7th for a reciprocal tariff announcement expected Monday or Tuesday, today or tomorrow. And it's that nations that impose tariffs on U.S. products can expect similar policies in return, he said. He said, we're a country charges us so much, and we do the same, Trump said, adding, I think that's the only fair way to do it. That way, nobody's hurt, especially not Americans, right? And it says he made the remarks during a joint press conference with Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba at the White House. And it also notes the president said more details will be provided in a news conference to be held on a date yet to be determined in the coming days, maybe this week. And notes basing trade policy on other nations' approaches is needed, according to Trump, to level the economic playing field. And Trump told reporters at an impromptu gathering before a meeting with Ishiba that the United States should be treated evenly with other countries. And he said, quote, we don't want any more, any less, the president said. Auto tariffs, cars, and so on are also under consideration, according to the president. Now, basically, here's what's happening. Most countries have some form of tariff or restrictions that work like tariffs on U.S. goods. This includes, for example, the European Union and other countries within Europe placing fines on American tech companies over and over and over again, to the extent that we basically bankroll the governments of some countries in Europe. They basically make their livings off taxing and fining American tech companies. America, for example, pays 100% tariffs when it comes to sending cars to, like, Germany or Japan, which they've actually walked back a bit now. Other countries that have been deeply taking advantage of the United States are also facing the reality that America will begin matching what they do to us. And especially when it comes to, for example, Trump's tariffs on aluminum, steel, Australia right now is begging the United States to not sanction them or tariff them like this, because it's one of their major industries. Canada is in full panic right now because of lumber and because of energy resources. Mexico especially is in panic because not only of the actions against the drug cartels, but also because basically a lot of our automotive parts come from Mexico. And if Trump is really going to revive American auto manufacturing, which is going to become a very big industry soon based on the way it's looking, then again, this is going to deeply impact them as well. And so countries that have been taking advantage of the United States basically as a way of life are now facing the reality that those days are coming to an end. What Trump is right now suggesting is the United States will match all of those with equal tariffs. If you tariff us 25%, we will tariff you 25%. If you take $300 billion every single year in a trade deficit, we will match that so that the amount goes back to zero. We will no longer lose money on these deals. And basically what Trump is declaring, the days of other countries exploiting the United States, those days are coming to an end. Folks, that said, hit the like button, leave a comment. Let's jump into some questions. All right, let's see here. All right, Seymour Butts. Good to see you, Seymour. You're saying anyone concerned about the government having access to your personal data had your head in the sand. Anything the government wants to know about you has been in their hands for years. It did not start with DOGE. Seymour, that's a very good point, right? Because one of the allegations is, why would you allow this crazy department to access your social security numbers? Well, why does the Treasury Department have access to that? Is that any less secure, one government agency versus another government agency with IT access, accessing that data? What is the actual difference? Especially when it's been created under an office of the executive branch of the U.S. government. It's going to be hard for them to argue that Elon Musk should not be able to access that. Not to mention the fact that if you go back to the Obama-era policy that established the USDS, the United States Digital Service, those of you who came late today, the DOGE department is actually a renaming of an Obama-era department. The Obama-era department is the USDS, the United States Digital Service. The USDS was established in 2014 basically to fix a lot of the IT and user experiences of different government agencies. And it was given access to medical information, it was given access to social security information, it was given access to like IRS stuff, all of that. And so if you go back and watch the videos, the things they're complaining that the DOGE department now has access to, it has had access to since 2014. It has had access to that this entire time. And based on the extent and the breadth of what IT would encompass, basically that's all digital information. Meaning the scope of DOGE was already established. The scope of DOGE was already crazy broad. And the fact that they're only now challenging it does suggest a type of politicization, right? And I know people on the other side argue too, well, isn't Trump politicizing it? Well, kind of, right? But he's presenting it as a type of audit, a type of review of fraud. And he's arguing that the fraud they've already uncovered more than justifies the actions that are now being taken. Believe which side you want, right? James Dyson, you're saying, Elon is like a plumber. He was hired to do a job. It's accurate. Elon the plumber, like when he brought the kitchen sink into the Twitter offices and then proceeded to fire like 90% of them. Threw out everything but the kitchen sink, he did. Right? All right, Ashley from California, you're saying, what's the point of appointing somebody to head the Treasury when they can't have access to records of what the Treasury is doing? You know, this is one of the big arguments, right? And so the tweet, or the X post, I guess we call it now, of Elon Musk, where he was saying that he's actually working with the Treasury Department on this, right? He's noting some of the changes that he is cooperating with the Treasury Department right now on implementing. And a lot of those do have to do with access to data and oversight. Elon Musk is questioning, how can you have spending with no description of the spending? How is that even possible? Why is it that you only update the list of people committing fraud, including like terrorist organizations, defrauding the American financial system and stealing our money? Why is it that that is only updated once a year instead of every week or even every single day? Why is it that you have to wait a year to update that, meaning people can rob the American citizens for an entire year before the money gets cut off? That's a fair argument, I would say. And the other point he's raising is basically that the loopholes that exist within the system. For example, how do you have it so that you can have duplicate Social Security numbers? Social Security numbers are supposed to define an individual. How can you have multiple versions of the same individual legally? Which allows, for example, illegal aliens to commit identity theft, illegal aliens to work illegally in the country. I think it's fair that some people might believe this is being done intentionally to allow them to do that. Because some allege that, well, you need to let illegal aliens work, and they can't work unless they steal people's identities. And if they're going to steal an identity, well, they might as well steal the same one multiple times and keep reusing it. But that brings up all kinds of other problems because they get Social Security, they get Medicare, they get Medicaid. They're able to even vote, although not legally, technically, but it does give them a door open to be able to do that. And so it opens the door to just an insane amount of fraud. Even the Treasury Department, based on the $100 billion of questionable payments that Elon Musk has now flagged, even the Treasury Department, according to him, has said that about $50 billion of that is probably fraudulent. That's a lot of money being stolen from the American people. And look, $50 billion, that's a lot of money. You know, that's a whole lot of money. Now, again, we'll see what happens with this, but they are trying to close some of these loopholes. We'll see if they can do it because there's people trying to stop it, interestingly. Let's see here. And it's not looking good on them either. This is one of the other arguments with it, is that Trump and Elon Musk are saying, why are you trying to stop us from getting rid of fraud? Like, why would you do that, right? M&A Kinney, you're saying, it's incredulous to me that some of my woke in-laws are more concerned about DOGE methods than the exposure and elimination of corruption and abuse of our tax dollars. Blows my mind. I mean, I understand the other side of it. So the Democrat argument is basically that Trump has given Elon Musk, this billionaire, who they call, you know, an unelected official. Technically, legally, he's a special government employee, which is legal, actually. But Elon Musk being given these powers to basically reform our entire government, right? And so he's going in, firing people. He's shutting down agencies, right? He's actually shutting them down for a time period, making people work from home, locking them out of their systems, locking them out of their email, gaining access to literally everything. Personal communications, personal identifying information, financial data, everything. And yes, on one side, this is probably going to reveal a lot of fraud. Yes, this is going to reveal illegal funding. On the other side, and this is where the Democrats are more focused, this will allow Elon Musk and Donald Trump to basically pick and choose what they want to keep and what they want to eliminate. And so a lot of the U.S. funding of, you know, woke policies, which honestly, if you look at the Biden administration, those were his main policies, right? He was The gender stuff, the race stuff, the environmental stuff, those were like the biggest policies of his entire administration. That was the main focus of it. And that involved money going to a lot of other countries pushing those programs, and even money for a lot of social operations pushing those programs. All of that is basically being weeded out right now. All of that is being eliminated. And so these people who believe in that stuff, they're essentially watching everything they believe in being like destroyed. And so that's why they're freaking out. And then they're like, well, who is Elon Musk to make these decisions, right? That's their argument. Fair enough, right? It's their worldview. It's the policies they may believe in. And it's being destroyed before their eyes. And so that's what they're dealing with this, right? Let's see, Sam Yaida, you're saying, USA dollar currency details like pennies are part the value. Elimination of any detail will degrade the whole currency globally. Yeah, you're referring to Donald Trump getting rid of the new printing of pennies. Yeah, well, you know, one of the problems, because we were discussing in the office a bit, you know, we think about Americans and our own experience, right? If I go to the store and something costs $1.07 and I no longer have pennies and I need to pay for it, how do I pay for it? Well, I can give them $1.10, right? $1.10, meaning they need to give me 3 cents back, but they have no pennies. And so, you know, that's an accounting error. Now, I don't care if I lose 3 cents, and the guy probably doesn't care if he charges me $1.05 instead of $1.07, right? And so nobody loses anything. It's not that big of a deal. But when you get to big corporations and massive global payments, the difference of a penny, right, that 1%, or the difference of, let's say, even a couple cents or even a fraction of a cent, in terms of payments, it's massive amounts of money. The difference of a single penny when it comes to global accounting and business deals is massive. And there are some people who, even just based on what they call accounting errors or quote-unquote rounding errors, there are people who commit fraud just by stealing that. And you know, it's a lot of money. It's an insane amount of money. And so while on an individual level, a penny, 2 pennies is like nothing, on a large scale, a penny or 2 pennies is huge. Now, the other side too is when it comes to international exchange rates. I believe, as Sam Yaida is noting, as Sam Yaida is noting, the issue you start having with international exchange rates, I believe what you're referring to, is that because of the different values of global currency, a penny may actually have more significance in some countries. And so those small differences within global currency actually does make a big difference. Now, to be clear, they're not really getting rid of pennies. They're just not going to be printing them anymore, or minting them anymore. And so there's not going to be new pennies in circulation. That's the technicality of what they've done. And also, on the other side of this, if you're doing international business, you're probably not making exchanges with physical coins, right? You're probably using digital payments, credit cards, right? International payment systems like SWIFT or whatever. You're using those things. You're not going to have a banker roll in with like a dump truck full of like penny rolls of like 50 cents, right? They're not going to go like and dump those on someone's front porch. It's digital payments. And so on that front, it probably will not affect things too much. And I believe that's probably where they're looking at. They're just looking at the minting of the coins and the cost of the minting and saying it's not worth it anymore, right? That's what they're doing. California gal, you're saying, how would it work for multiple people to get Social Security payments from the same stolen identity? Yeah, it seems a bit fishy, right? But apparently that's what's been happening. That's what's been happening. I know it's not really funny. That is what Elon Musk alleges they have now uncovered. He's alleging there are a lot of people who've just been robbing Americans blind using Social Security fraud. And yes, including people using the same number multiple times to commit fraud multiple times. Even outside of illegal aliens, you have international fraud organizations, basically gangs operating all around the world who take advantage of loopholes within the American system to steal money like this. And when Elon Musk talked about that list, saying, how can we only update this list of banned individuals, including known terrorist organizations? How is it we only update it once a year? That means you're letting people defraud the American system for an entire year before you update it and kick them off. And then what happens? Well, they probably do it again next year using different numbers or different names. The operations to steal the identities of Americans can be used for this. Think about that, right? Remember, the Treasury Department was breached by the Chinese Communist Party just a few months ago. They stole everything. Remember, they gained access to our entire telecom system. Hackers, international hacker organizations, which are just gangs, basically, and in some countries they can operate pretty much without any risk of legal repercussions if they're working in Russia or China or other countries that do not have extradition treaties with the United States. They can commit fraud like this, stealing American identities, and then using those stolen identities to cash in on these programs with no repercussions. And the systems are set up in such a way where they can do this pretty much openly and make a lot of money with it. And we'll find out just how big the scale of that is. Maybe it's 50 billion a year, maybe it's 100 billion a year, maybe it's even more than that. But that is the flag being raised by the DOGE department right now, and the warnings are sending out with this. Let's see here, another question. Wow's in my pants, you're saying, how strange to see some argue that the government should not know the information it has superimposed on its people. That is one of the problems we have as well right now, because that's one of the big problems we have as well right now, because some people on the Democrat side, they're also arguing that what Trump and Musk and a lot of people around them are doing is they're basically gutting the existing system. And through the gutting of the system, what they're highlighting are the problems, right? They're highlighting the things that were wrong with it, and they're mostly just focused on that. The other side would argue there's a lot of legitimate stuff too. The other side would argue there's a lot of legitimate stuff too. And pretty much what you're seeing, the worldview you have, is based on which media you're watching. That's basically what it comes down to. If you're watching conservative media, you're only seeing the fraud for the most part. You're only seeing the ridiculous spending, you're only seeing the waste, you're only seeing the activist organizations and all these crazy groups getting money. If you're reading only liberal media, you're only seeing the legitimate side of it. You're only seeing the money going to feed, give medicine to sick children in different countries. You're only seeing the aid programs. You're only seeing these programs to build schools. That's all you're seeing. And there's very little kind of showing the middle ground that it's both, actually, right? Although in the middle ground, too, people would say that a lot of the people who are working in these programs, getting money for these programs, because of the DEI and ESG programs, a lot of them are people who came out of the college system working in those types of programs. And so they're kind of on the further left-hand side of the political spectrum, which on the Republican side, it looks like you're saying, well, you're only hiring liberal activists, right? That's the perception of it. And so I think with Democrats right now, when they're watching their side and they're being like, why are you getting rid of all these aid programs? Why are you destroying this? That's what they're paying attention to. They're not actually paying attention to the fraud because the media isn't even showing that to them for the most part. They're not even seeing that. Some of them may not even know that's happening because the media does not tell them, right? And then they highlight conspiracy theories or rumors. Anytime someone gets something wrong or exaggerates something, they use that to basically frame the entire other side as being fake. Right? That's what is happening right now. It's kind of this bubble system. People are in their own bubbles and they don't see the other side of the bubble. Now, to that point, USAID, which is kind of the focus of one of these big arguments right now of like, the activist groups getting all the money, it's not going away. That's just being moved under the State Department. And Marco Rubio is basically saying that going forward, the money for USAID is going to have to be in line with the operations and agendas of the State Department, meaning more legitimate programs of foreign aid, meaning we're still going to do it, but maybe with more transparency and with more congressional oversight. Because one of the arguments even against USAID, even before all of this was exposed, was that members of Congress could not actually see what they were spending our money on. What has now happened is that the veil has basically been pulled back, and the people of the United States, and most of the world for that matter, are now able to see what our money was being used for. We're now getting the transparency that we had oftentimes said that we wanted. And the people who are watching it, yeah, they're seeing some of the legitimate programs, but they're seeing there's a lot of fraud, a lot of waste, a lot of abuse, and a lot of really ridiculous stuff that looks like a giant political slush fund. And so I would say both are kind of true, but the problems are really serious, right? That is my perception of it. Maybe don't get rid of the entire, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Some of it is good and useful, but yeah, there are a lot of problems too, and I think we should recognize both. Paul Navante, you're saying, if we have to survive on 50% of what we make, it's time for the government to survive on 50% of what they normally take. Yeah, that's true. Maybe they should stop eating like avocado toast in the morning. Maybe they should, make coffee at home instead of going to the coffee shop. Small changes like this in their finances so that they can afford to live on less income, right? They need to have nothing and be happy. Maybe it's what the lesson is here, right? They'll have nothing and they'll be happy, right? Maybe that's the message for all of them. And I'm half joking because that was literally what they were telling like the average American for a long time. Just skip that avocado toast, and maybe you'll have enough money to buy a house one day, right? Just keep at it. Another one from Seymour Butts. You're saying constitutional crisis, the new buzzword the left is using. I'd say both are using constitutional crisis. On the side of the left right now, yeah, they're saying that what Trump and the DOGE agency represent is a constitutional crisis because they're going in and gutting all the federal agencies. The problem they're having is that it's not a constitutional crisis. If you want to really get into it, a lot of these agencies were established by executive order. A lot of the agencies are debatably not even constitutional. In fact, I think they could easily get rid of a lot of them. Government spending, what you would call the administrative state, it's not constitutional. What you would argue is maybe it was created through the bipartisan system of like legislative branches and Congress voting on it and stuff like that. Yeah, you could argue that, but a lot of it was not. A lot of it also was not. And look, there's no constitutional amendment saying that America has to let illegal aliens get Social Security benefits. Show me the constitutional amendment on that, and I'll shut up. Right? I have not seen that myself personally. Show me the constitutional amendment that says Social Security numbers can be reused multiple times. Where's the constitutional crisis in this? Show me the constitutional amendment that says that we have to bankroll activist organizations all across the United States. And people would say, well, that was the budget delegated by Congress, which is the argument on the constitutional side. But the reality is that Congress was not able to have oversight of a lot of the spending. Congress, yeah, they voted on the budget for the agency, but when they tried to find out what the agencies were doing, the agencies refused to give them that information. And so Congress was blocked from knowing this. That's not constitutional. Congress, being in charge of the budget, should know what the budget is being used for. You can't block them from auditing that or finding that. if they're in charge of the budget. That, you could argue that's not constitutional. Anyways, to the point of DOGE, whether you call it the DOGE Department or the United States Digital Service, which was the 2014 Obama program that started it, it was established constitutionally. That's the great irony with all of this. The DOGE Department, which is just a renaming of the Obama-era United States Digital Service, was created through a constitutional process. Meaning, again, it was passed legally, established legally, and has been legally operating for, since 2014, almost, more than 10 years now. And so why was there not a constitutional crisis 5 years ago? Why was there not a constitutional crisis 10 years ago? Why is it only a constitutional crisis now? And the other side of it, too, is that even within the ways and laws they've used, all the laws they've used are established as being legal, right? Trump just found some very clever ways to use existing laws to do this. He's not doing anything new, technically. He's just using what was already there. And so I personally don't feel the constitutional argument is going to hold up, but it works as a good opposition narrative. It works as a good buzzword to rally people to protest and stuff. And it sounds bad, right? It sounds bad. And so it's just a media. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a media operation. And for every media operation, you need a kind of buzzword. That's the buzzword they're having right now. And that's just you're going to be hearing probably a lot of it up until the point where, maybe the Supreme Court has to look at it, and then we'll find out if it's really constitutional or not. It probably will end up going through the Supreme Court. Folks, that said, I hope you all enjoyed the Super Bowl last night. All those Eagles fans out there, congratulations. I hope you enjoyed it. And that said, folks, I will see you tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Please don't forget to share this video, send it to a friend as well. And that said, as always, please take care of yourselves, stay informed, and stay free. Thank you.